I should have known you'd make a mess of this trip.
Welcome back to It's Too Bad, the show where we watch bad movies and try to find the good in them. My name's Ted.
I'm Jason, and still February, so we're kind of kicking into our second string of chick flicks. And this one, a little different than Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
The 2002 Britney Spears pick, Crossroads.
Okay, now I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm a big fan of Britney Spears.
I know you are.
I have been a fan. In our lives, she has been kind of like in the news. Everyone else,
Right.
like at this point, if you're younger than us, have just seen her as the crazy Britney. We've seen her rise, fall, and
From Mickey
rise?
Mouse Club to,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
the peak of pop stardom.
So we have been, I feel like we're interconnected with Britney Spears.
Yeah.
And to not have seen this movie was a deliberate choice on my part, was to say, I know I love Britney Spears, but I cannot see this film. Was this on the Time Magazine
This
one
is
as well?
also on Time
Okay,
Magazine.
so
Thank you, Time.
Time Magazine has the worst chick flicks. This was on it, and we picked Valentine's Day and Crossroads because everyone said it was awful.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's watch this movie. I didn't hate it because of Britney Spears, but I know why it's bad,
Sure.
and it's because of Britney Spears. So those are two things that I fighting against myself. When did you first see Crossroads?
I hate to admit, but
This is why I brought it up.
we wanted to go see a movie. We were at the mall, and on a coin flip, ended up on Crossroads.
Wait, what was the other movie that was on the other
I
end of
don't
that coin
remember
flip?
because
Okay.
I thought maybe Kangaroo Jack, but we also saw that on a coin flip.
Oh.
So
Jeez, man, you stop flipping coins, man. Just
I
make
know.
a decision.
I know. Like you say, it's not a terrible movie,
No.
but Britney Spears is the reason why it's so bad. And part of it is because this whole movie was made because of Britney Spears.
Crossroads doesn't exist if Britney Spears isn't there.
Right, exactly. This is a Zomba Films, Zomba being her recording group. So her label basically made this film with MTV, but it was just a movie to pimp out Britney Spears as
Yeah.
a pop star and a sex symbol.
Yeah,
And,
the first time you see her, she's dancing around in her underwear.
and a few more times after
and a few
that.
more times after that. And I kept thinking, well, if this is the whole movie, why didn't I see it earlier? But, but it's not.
Yeah.
And then it gets worse from there. Because not only does she look like that, okay, but she's a virgin and the nerd at school, and she's valedictorian. All of those don't make sense.
No.
For Britney
When
Spears.
you look at Britney.
When you look at Britney, you're not thinking, well, obviously the smartest person at school. Not saying she's not smart, but goodness.
I worked really hard to be the valedictorian.
Of course you did.
This story basically is not just Britney's story. It's
No.
sort of three friends that grew up together, drifted apart in high school. We see it a lot in the teen movies, and,
Right.
and they have to kind of come back together and remember why they were friends.
Okay.
They had made a pact to come back on their graduation night and open up this little memory box that they had buried 10 years ago. For whatever reason, they don't like each other, and that's never explained why they grew apart.
Well, they grew apart.
But in just as quick of an instance, they're back together and are now
Yeah.
leaving because Taryn Manning's character, we find out she's pregnant and she is going to LA to become a pop star.
You're pregnant. So I'll wear something slimming.
And what? You think you're gonna become like this big fat pregnant star?
Meanwhile, Zoe Saldana, in one very early role,
Very early role.
is sort of like the prom queen debutante type girl,
Right.
And she's a little better than everybody else, but she's going to go visit her boyfriend, who also happens to be at UCLA.
I don't know how he gets to UCLA. But we'll talk about that later, probably in the podcast.
but they're engaged.
They are engaged.
And
Good for them.
she just graduated high school,
I'd be
and she's going to
pissed.
go see him.
Yeah.
So conveniently, they're all going out that way, and Arizona's on the way. So Brittany
is on the
decides she's going to go see her mom.
So right now we have a situational comedy, situational
They
movie.
tried.
They all hate each other, but because there's one car going to LA with a man who they think murdered somebody, they're
That's
all
the
just
rumor.
gonna get into the car
Yeah.
and drive across America. Let's touch on Shonda Rhimes for a minute. She did write this movie, and if you're a fan of TGIT, well, I watch How to Get Away with Murder. I don't watch Scandal or Grey's Anatomy, but those have been on forever. You start to see where she gets her little twists from, and this one has one in spades at the end. My goodness. Honestly, the writing wasn't terrible. Right. The situation was terrible. If you put any other actress in this might not be reviewed on this channel. Right. But because Britney cannot deliver lines, she doesn't sing live, why would she be able to deliver lines? And she can.
Sorry.
You notice Britney right away, but the rest of them kind of help carry her through this movie. And for that, I really think that's one of the reasons why this movie isn't the worst I've ever seen, is the other actors are really propping her up and saying, okay, Britney, we're going to take you across America so you can be a star at the end of it.
Zoe Saldana and Taryn Manning, they take the writing and they use it. They deliver at some point some pretty powerful performances. Britney just can't muster that. You know, her years on Mickey Mouse Club didn't prepare her for meeting her mom for the first time since 3 years old, who didn't recognize her.
To be Justin Long in this movie. Justin Long plays the lab partner for 3 years. That's the only thing they have in common.
So were they dating? This is a question.
I don't think they were.
They never really say.
No, I don't think they were. I think they were just lab partners that agreed to have sex on graduation night. She makes him, this is my favorite, makes him have a list of reasons why they should have sex. She is in her underwear, once again, and they can't get in the mood. And so he's like, well, let's get into bed. And so they get into bed, but she's like, I want to hear that list again. And so he has the list.
Reason number one, we've been lab partners for 3 years.
Okay.
So we really trust each other.
That's really important. Okay.
Trust is very important. Reason number two, we are both 18 and have never done it. Very important.
Okay.
Then they kiss and she laughs, and that's got to be deflating.
Yeah.
Even
More
for
ways than
Justin
one.
Long in general. Even
Yeah,
though he
they're
had
taking it personally.
Yeah, he must have, because I mean, I would have at that point. And she's like, "Is this how you always wanted it, or something?" And the reason, yeah. I mean, I'm sure Justin Long thought of it this way. Maybe one day I'll be in a movie with her and we'll make out.
Yeah, probably best performance in the whole film.
I would think so.
You know, a director can only pull so much out of you. If you don't have the talent, you just got to work around that. And being a Britney Spears vehicle, they couldn't get another actress for Britney Spears. And there's only so much you can tell someone
that's what I was gonna say.
That's a pop diva. You know, at the end of the day, it's no Kubrick 165 takes for Britney Spears to pull something off.
No.
You're not getting it from her.
Right.
And so the directing for everyone else, great. So you know that the director did a good job. And director being Tamara Davis, who directed Half Baked and Happy Gilmore and CB4 and some of my favorite films of my youth. She was probably the right person for this, but I don't know that any director could pull it out of Britney.
Britney Spears in 2002 was as big as, I mean, she is now, but she's huge. Right. And so you get the call to direct the Britney Spears movie. It almost feels like if you got that call in 2000, 2001, or whenever they started filming, you can't miss. Right. No matter what, people will go see Britney Spears.
For sure.
And it didn't pan out that way. This wasn't going to be Purple Rain.
Right.
You know, this isn't even Thriller at this moment, right? But this is maybe the reason why we don't see a lot of pop stars doing this anymore.
This was sort of a trend at that time, though. You had On the Line.
My wife loves that movie. And Sync, that's why. I mean,
right, exactly. Even a little later when American Idol started from Justin to Kelly.
Yes.
This was kind of a thing they did. And this goes back to the 50s. And Elvis was in a dozen movies. And people think they want to see that. And it's obviously a cash grab. You know, it makes sense for the labels to put their stars out there. It makes sense to the production companies to make these movies. But are any of them that good? Hardly ever. And Britney was just the latest victim of that.
Right,
really.
and I'm sure the soundtrack, let's touch on that.
Absolutely.
Obviously, she had a few new songs in it that she's going to launch into her next album at least, so you're going to see that come through.
This is basically the Not a Girl origin story.
Yeah,
you know,
much,
like it's a made-up origin story for this song that was a huge hit for her.
Of course.
And so obviously that sold records. People saw that and heard the song and then wanted to get it. There you were. But the soundtrack beyond Britney Spears, which there's plenty of, is a time capsule of 2001, 2002.
Yes.
Everything from NSYNC to, I believe Lit was in there. You know, these songs that now, when you look back at it, you're like, wow, I own that album, but I don't want to admit that.
No, we didn't want to admit it.
But if you own the Crossroads soundtrack, you had the soundtrack of that year. I mean,
course.
it was just every TRL, top 20 video.
But who wouldn't want to be on this soundtrack?
People that were listening to Britney, it was the perfect thing for them.
Absolutely. I'm going to say, because of Britney, I wouldn't be upset to see this again. But will I see it again is a different question. If it was on TV, would I stop? And the answer is no. I wouldn't watch this unless it's in the first minute, and then maybe I'll give a glance. Other than that, no, I actually don't think I would stop on this. I remember watching this with my wife, trying to start it, I think maybe 2 times. We tried to start this movie, and I got 20 minutes in, and I couldn't do it every time. I was just like, I don't care what happens at the end of this. It doesn't bother me. We didn't have the show, I never would have watched the movie. So I probably never would have got past 20 minutes. So, and my rating, it's probably here, okay? It's not this, obviously I'm not gonna never watch it, but if I was forced to watch it, I mean, it's Britney, so I'm not gonna be upset, but
I'm kind of right in the same spot.
Okay.
This being my second viewing, I remember why I never really went back to it.
Right.
This is exactly how I remembered it to be. And it's exactly what you think it's going to be. You're not going
No.
into it thinking it's going to get an Oscar.
Please.
Your first instincts are usually right, guys. So
Yeah.
I'm right about the same right there.
Okay.
Kind of fun to relive 2002 for an hour and a half. But in the end, that only lasts for so long, and you're left no better than you were before. So.
All right. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below on Crossroads or Britney Spears or anything else you want to tell us. Don't forget about our podcast, which will air next week on Crossroads. And that'll be our last in February. And we'll move on in March to greener pastures. I don't know what we'll do, but
That sounds good.
It sounds better than Crossroads. So let's hope for the best.